picking.
And we are back with another week of Touchdown coming at you from Champions in the Marriott in Vienna, Austria. As always, I'm your host, Joel Turpin. With me today, my co-hosts, Philly Chris Burdette, Katie Aichhorn, and David Asselin. Let's get the ball rolling really quick this week, and we're going to start first. We've got about a quarter of the season over. Every team has played at least 4 games now, even ones that had to bye, and we can talk a little bit about who has been the MVP of the first quarter of the season. If the season were to end today, who would your MVP be? I'm going to start the discussion off, and I'm going to choose Russell Wilson, the quarterback of the defending champion Seattle Seahawks. Now, my reasoning here is this. I think that Wilson has stepped up his game. Coming into this season, everybody thinks of defense first with the Seahawks and him as more of a game manager, but I'll tell you what, he seems to have taken it to the next level this year. He's completed over 70% of his passes through 5 games with just 1 interception. Monday night's game was a great microcosm of his season. Rushed for 122 yards, the most in history by a quarterback on Monday Night Football, and he makes the right throw at the right time, like in the Denver game where he let him back down the field in overtime.
Yeah, listen, I like Russell Wilson as well. I just don't think he's got the numbers to put up in the grand scheme of things. MVP tends to be a numbers game in some ways. I do like him as a leader of that team, which is why I end up going with Peyton Manning as my MVP selection. Thought about not selecting him, but he has to be in the conversation. He's only played 4 games versus the rest of the teams that basically not rest. The majority of the teams have played 5 games at this point, but the numbers that he's put up have been extremely impressive, and he's really the leader behind that team. 12 touchdown passes. The leader in the clubhouse at the moment is 14. Only 2 behind him. It's Andrew Luck. And as a result, I really think he's doing it. The other thing is he continues to be really an on-field presence. The guy is basically an offensive coordinator on the field. He makes the adjustments at the line of scrimmage. He's calling audibles in different facets. He's able to make sure that even with the absence of Wes Welker at the beginning of the season, anyway, I think the guy's a fantastic player. Call it a little overrated, but I'm sticking with my man.
I'm going to follow your trend and say keep it with quarterbacks, but neither of the 2 you picked. I go with hometown boy Andy Dalton. And despite a loss this week, I will eat my humble pie for picking the Bengals over.
Bake my lasagna.
I will bake you a lasagna. I promise to do so. I still say that Andy Dalton's looking exceptionally strong as the leader of Cincinnati right now. He has a lot of weapons in his arsenal, people to throw to, people to hand the ball off to, and I think that he is playing a very mature and balanced game right now. His play calling looks exceptional, and even despite the loss this week, I don't really think you can 100% put the blame on him. It's easy to do that to a quarterback when your team loses, but I don't think he's really the problem. A lot of dropped passes, a lot of fumbles. He wasn't really the problem in the game. A lack of defense, by all means, hurt the Bengals this week. But the man has only thrown 1 interception all season, no fumbles, averaging 8.5 yards per throw, and a 64% completion rate. Not ideal, but still, I think his presence and his ability to rally this team will get the Bengals back where they were before.
I went another direction as my colleagues this week. I chose a running back until Marco Murray of the Dallas Cowboys. This gentleman, and Katie, this guy is an absolute beast in the NFL right now. 670 total yards in running alone, and that's 200 more than his nearest competitor, Pittsburgh Le'Veon Bell. He's averaging 5 yards per carry. That's 135 yards a game, ladies and gentlemen. He is he's not built like your normal running back. He's a little taller and very strong than most running backs in the league. He's also an excellent receiver and has also picked up big chunks of yards on the receiving end of the team. He literally carries the team down the stretch. You have seen in week after week, game after game, third, fourth quarter, he's punching out the big yards, getting the Cowboys in field goal range or into the red zone. I picked a running back because a quarterback is an automatic MVP in the NFL. Won't you agree with this? And yes, Peyton Manning, please, Louise. I think Chad Henne could have an MVP day if he was playing with the Broncos. This is my point. Not to take anything away from Russell Wilson, but I see Wilson as a quarterback going down like a Cunningham or like an RG3. These pocket quarterbacks, only like Peyton, are the ones that actually you see longevity. And as far as Andy Dalton goes, an MVP quarterback wouldn't lose a game in New England.
I tell you
no
the difference
what
with
the team was.
the difference with Russell Wilson is he scrambles,
Yes.
but he scrambles to throw first. If you
but
watch
there
him
are
play,
teams, Joe, gunning for him. This
no,
year
I hear you.
as
But
an
if
Super
you watch
Bowl.
him to play,
Yes.
he scrambles to throw first, and B, the guy never gets hit. The guy goes down when they get close, and he goes out of bounds when they watch him. That game against the Redskins, he scrambled for 16, 20, 25 yards in the first two drives.
Okay.
Didn't get hit on any of those. Every time he
Bold
goes down,
prediction
he
here.
goes out of
Bold
bounds.
prediction here. Russell Wilson goes down before the end of the season.
And why do you say that?
Well, they are the Super Bowl champions right now, reigning Super Bowl quarterback, MVP, all that jazz. I just think teams are gunning for him.
Yeah, but I mean,
Russell Wilson.
have you seen-
Without Russell Wilson, there were no Seahawks.
have you seen
Offense
Tom
is
Brady
good.
go down every year after they won the Super Bowl? Have you seen Ben Roethlisberger go down every
Yeah,
year
but
after they won the
Tom
Super
and
Bowl?
these guys aren't scrambling. Well, maybe Ben has a little bit. But
I
Yeah,
think
they scramble. They scramble to throw, and I think that's the difference between him and somebody like Michael Vick or somebody like RG3 who's looking for the hits. Anyway, I think we've covered that topic pretty
Yes.
well. We've beat that one to death, so let's move on. And I want to talk for a moment just about ways to watch football, ways to watch the NFL. And I think sometimes people that weren't growing up with the sport have a tendency to just watch for the big plays, and they don't realize that every play could be a turning point in an NFL game. So what we're going to do is we're going to illustrate a few of those type plays that were turning points in the last week that if you weren't paying close attention, you might not have realized at the time. And we're going to start with Dave.
Oh, okay. Last week I watched New Orleans at Tampa Bay. It was an overtime game to set up the scenario a little bit. There was an illegal contact in the backfield. Okay, what this means, illegal contact stresses that if a quarterback is still in his pocket and a defensive player cannot contact the receiver beyond 5 yards from the line of scrimmage. If this occurs, then the offensive team is awarded an automatic first down and 5 yards. Okay, this is an old rule. It's used to say that the defensive player can't redirect or to restrict or impede the receiver. Now he basically cannot touch him. A hand on the shoulder that gets, but any redirection of the receiver.
I'm throwing the flag, Dave.
From the defense, exactly, is called illegal contact. In this situation, with this penalty last week, overtime, we're looking at New Orleans having troubles as it is to generate anything on offense. 3rd down and 10, passes into the secondary of Tampa Bay, illegal contact, gives the New Orleans Saints a fresh set of 4 downs. A few downs later, field goal wins the game in overtime. So such a penalty can have such an effect on the game.
What about you, Katie?
So I've chosen to talk today about a coach's decision to challenge a play and how that can impact the outcome of a game, namely in the form of the Cleveland and Tennessee game this week, ended in a 1-point win for my Browns in the very last minute, based namely on 2 challenges. Both went in favor of the Browns, thank the Lord. And the first one, namely, there was a 6-yard pass by Charlie Whitehurst. They call it out of bounds, and that stops the clock, and he has the first down. Browns said, no go. They review it, and ultimately it's found that he does not have the first down. They've got a tough spot to make a 4th down play. They go for it with a really ill-fated quarterback sneak and completely stopped at the line, try to stretch forward. Then Tennessee decides they will challenge the play. They say Whitehurst has successfully gotten that 4th down. He has not. He's called short at 4th and inches, and there we go. Browns get the ball back on downs, move forward, and score the last points. Take it home.
That'll do it.
That'll do it, yeah. Chris?
Yeah, so for me, this happened in the Detroit Lions versus the Buffalo Bills game. There was a missed field goal down at the end of the game. And what I want to talk about a little bit is what really dynamics of a missed field goal means from a process and from the defensive side of the ball turning to the offensive side of the ball and giving that team now an advantage. So the scenario was that the Detroit Lions had an opportunity to kick a field goal. It was a 40-yard field goal. That means that the ball was at the 32-yard line at the moment, and they ended up missing the field goal. What happens then is that instead of being at the line of scrimmage at the 32-yard line, the line of scrimmage then for the defense now is at the 40-yard line. So they've now gotten an 8-yard advantage in the process. When we talk about driving the field and getting into at least field goal position, you're talking about cutting the field down quite considerably. It's a 14-14 ball game at this point. They really only need to drive the ball about 20 yards in order to get into the tail end of their position. They end up driving 20 yards. They set up get the ball to the 40-yard line. They are able to kick a 58-yard field goal. Moving the ball only 20 yards based upon a missed field goal can really change the dynamic of the football game. As a result, they scored that final field goal, 17-14. Tough loss for the Detroit Lions in a tough NFC North division. Probably come back to hurt them.
Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Kansas City-San Francisco game. A very close game, went down to the wire, ended up being a 5-point game when it was all said and done. And there were many big plays, of course, in this game, as there always are. There were touchdowns. There was a 4th down conversion on a fake punt. But there was another moment late in the first half, which I also consider to be very pivotal. And this one's actually the 49ers quarterback, Colin Kaepernick, had the ball, 3rd down, 6 yards or so. A pass rush by the Chiefs had him trapped. He broke free, ran for the sidelines, and really kind of stretched out as he was going out of bounds and made the play just by an inch. Now this also, there was an attempted review on that. It was inconclusive, even though the announcers and everybody thought that he probably was a little short. It was inconclusive. They couldn't tell exactly where he went out, so it was upheld. But the point was, the Chiefs, at that point, had that drive been stopped there, had the ball been punted back to them, they're still ahead. They've got the ball on a short field and a chance to really take command of that game before the halftime. Instead, the Niners drive, they score, the whole tone of the game has changed, and it never really got back to that point again. It was always the Chiefs playing catch-up from that point. So I consider that to be one of the big plays of the game. When you read back over the summaries in the next day's paper, it's not really mentioned as being a big thing. But if you're watching the whole game, if you're watching with a discerning eye, you can tell that that's one of the plays that made all the difference.
It changed the momentum.
It changed the momentum. It changed everything, and especially given that they tried to challenge it, as Katie has pointed out, and had that challenge fail, they lost a timeout. It really it changed the dynamics, and that was one of the big plays of the game. So just another way to watch, little things to watch for, penalties, missed field goals, changes in field position. All these things make a big difference when you're watching NFL games. So we're going to take a little break, and when we come back, we'll once again talk about last week's picks, this week's picks, and we'll tell you guys what to be watching out for. See you soon. And we're back, talking the games from last week that we did our best to prognosticate on, and a little bit about this week's games. Last week we had Cincinnati at New England, which Dave and I called while Katie and Chris dropped the ball. New England won. Baltimore lost at Indianapolis. Dave was the only person to think that Baltimore was going to win that one. Arizona at Denver, well, we all had that one, I'm happy to say, or, well, I guess not so happy. I'd have been quite okay with being wrong about that one. Denver won. Kansas City at San Francisco. Katie and I, we stood by the good guys, and we lost.
Charles, I think it was.
Power of Charles did not come through. On the bonus picks, we all picked the Giants. They won. We all picked Carolina to lose against Chicago, and unfortunately that did not happen. And then Houston at Dallas, the only outlier was Dave, who picked Dallas to win, and of course they did. Meaning Dave was 5-2, Chris was 4-3, I was 4-3, and Katie was 3-4, unfortunately. So
Much like the Browns, came up just a little bit short.
Just a little short.
May I add, Dallas was always playing an away game for them this past
It
week.
was, yeah.
All the Houston Texans fans and Arlington.
Thus proving how great the Dallas
Yes.
Cowboys. Is that
Proving
what
how
you're
great
getting
they are,
at?
yes. No,
Yeah.
no.
Amazing.
I'm sure that was the
Dallas.
subtext,
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, yeah?
So we're talking this week, though. We're going to go with some upcoming games, and we're going to let Katie kick it off with Pittsburgh at Cleveland. Katie?
All right. Well, as we stated previously, my Browns have been a nail-biter team all season, winning or losing their games so far by a total of 8 points. So I predict this one to also be just as close. They've seen each other once already last 3 weeks ago in Heinz Field. This time we get to bring Pittsburgh to our house, playing Cleveland. I think there's a lot. It's going to be a heavy ground game. Both of these teams have a lot of strength in their running game. Both of these teams have terrible rush defenses as well, which means I say it's high pointing but close. I think the Browns are going Hoyer. If you saw it, please YouTube Hoyer's after game dance in the locker room. It is one of the most uplifting things to come
He
on
can
YouTube.
dance.
And
He
the
can
boy
dance.
had
He
moves.
wants to.
If he wants to.
Yeah.
The boy had moves, and I think they have a lot of momentum this right now and playing their rivals at home. That's a tough place to play in Cleveland, and I say Browns pull it out by a field goal.
I'm all with you on that one. Steelers haven't been consistent. We'll neither have the Browns. They're playing in the doghouse in Cleveland against the divisional rival. I think the 12th man wins it for them in Cleveland this Sunday.
I think the fact that the Browns have had so many close games, I think there's going to be a tide turning here. I'm not totally sold on the Pittsburgh Steelers, but at this point, I think they're a bit better coached. I think they have a chance. I take Pittsburgh in this match. Away.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to have to go with Pittsburgh, too. I'd like to support Cleveland. Katie supported me with the KC pick a couple of times, but
Benedict.
I actually... I see Pittsburgh as a very schizophrenic team, so they could just come in here and lay an egg like they did against Tampa Bay, for example, and just not look good at all. But I think that the Steelers are going to, it's a rivalry game. Teams don't tend to overlook rivalry games and divisional games, so I think they're going to come in, and their ground game is just so strong. I see them controlling the clock. It will be close, I'm sure, as all of the Cleveland games have been. But I see Pittsburgh pulling it out at the end. Next, I think Dave's going to take us down a little stroll of New England at Buffalo, where the Bills are celebrating officially getting a start with their new owner. Dave?
I'll do just that. Now, I've been saying week after week, relax, ladies and germs, it's only week 3 or it's only week 4. It is week 6 in the NFL, and this is a game that has huge playoff implications. The Browns, surprisingly to some, are leading in the AFC East right now. Patriots on their heels. Patriots going into Buffalo, which is tough to play in, but there will be a handful of Patriots fans here as well. They'll make that road trip. This is a game, let me put it to you in a scenario. After this week, Patriots are facing, they got a gimme against the Jets, but then they got a brutal schedule. They've got Chicago, Denver, Indianapolis, Detroit, Green Bay, and San Diego, as opposed to the Buffalo Bills, who have Minnesota, the Jets, KC, I'll give you that one, Miami, the Jets again, Cleveland, blah, blah, blah. So you understand, the Patriots need
Totally
to go
whitewashed in this
Cleveland,
discussion.
blah, blah, blah.
but they need to go into Buffalo and win this game, and I see it's coming down to your fearless leader, the quarterback, and I think Brady's just got a little bit more going on Orton right now. The Patriots looked good last week. Their offensive line is strong. They were actually highlighted on several highlights last week in the NFL. I see the Patriots even playing away, walking away with this one in the second half.
I will agree that the Patriots will win. The only reason they're on the highlights reel is because they actually had something to show this week as opposed to the week before.
I didn't say anything different, Kate.
At any rate, I say, yeah, we saw glimpses, well, not glimpses, we saw 4 quarters of Brady in his fine form again, where he really looked like he wasn't a washed up 37-year-old
yes.
quarterback. He actually played like a Super Bowl champion this week, and I think I think they're starting to re-gel somehow. I give it to you.
Let me break it in to help these guys on their decision. If you look back in the NFL in the last few years, the Patriots had a couple seasons where they won a Super Bowl. They actually started off slow.
That makes me think that maybe Buffalo's going to take this game.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's right.
so they could start off slow.
Yeah.
Listen, I like Orton as a quarterback, but as a backup quarterback.
Thank you.
I like the fact that they might have a story there. The Buffalo Bills is kind of one of those secondary teams, new ownership. I just think that the Patriots are going to continue to bring it. Last week I thought they were washed up and it was over. It's an interesting week last week against the Chiefs, and I'm picking New England in this game.
I'm not sure that my overall thoughts about New England have changed drastically. I thought they were going to bounce back and win that game last week. That's the kind of thing that teams that are well coached tend to do. However, I'm not sure that they're going to be a team that breezes through the season and has one of the best records in the AFC when it's all done. That being said, as Davis pointed out, they've got the tough games coming up, and I think that they know deep down they can't afford to lose this game. If they do, Buffalo is ahead in the division, and even with a team that's a little bit maybe lesser in terms of some of the key components, they could be dangerous. So I think New England will win it. I don't know that it's going to be a cakewalk. I think that crowd's going to be crazy, and it's going to be a tough environment. It's going to be a close game. I think New England pulls it out in the end. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about Dallas at Seattle, which, of course, until recently was one of those games, if you looked at the start of the season, you'd assume, oh, let's chalk it up. Seattle's going to win at home. Well, maybe so. Maybe that's how it goes. But as we've said all along, this is the game now that really may define Dallas's season. This is the chance that they have to come out and put up or shut up. They've been rolling against some not-so-great teams, and they've been winning. But can they do something on the road? And, maybe they don't have to win necessarily, but can they come out and make it close? Can they pound that ball? Can they tote that rock with DeMarco Murray and score enough to keep it close in a very hostile environment there in Seattle? Seattle looks good, but they don't look like world beaters so far this season. Washington played them close, and that's a team that has just gotten killed by New York, the Giants, Eli Manning. So it's a very interesting game for the rest of the season in the NFC, really. Is Dallas going to be a contender? Is Seattle going to settle down and run away with it again? How's it going to play out? So I'm going to be watching this one very closely. I think Seattle wins it in the end, but I'm definitely interested to see it.
Yeah, listen, from my side of things, Dallas going into Seattle, they've had some close games. They haven't necessarily played the best all season. They've been squeaking out wins, though. Record shows 4-1, could be 5-0, as we've said multiple times. That being said, I think they're going into the hostile environment in Seattle. I see Seattle taking this game.
I'm on board as well. I think that Seattle defense, given the combination of playing in Seattle, will be able to contain DeMarco Murray, and he's by far their biggest asset right now. So I'm also with the Seattle team.
I think Dallas really needs to go and, like Joel said, seriously show the rest of the NFL they're not a fluke or anything like that, especially now that you got the resurging New York Giants at their heels in the NFC East. Stealing a line from my colleague. That being said, he can hold and tote that rock 126 times this week in Seattle. I don't think Dallas, as good as they may or may not be, is going to win in Seattle this week. I pick the Seahawks.
Okay, so not a lot of dissension in the ranks on this one. We're all Seahawks fans this week, apparently.
Who knew?
Oh, well. Who knew? Yeah.
Lighter.
Yeah, just like our producer, Mr. Tommy Meyer. All right, the last game of the week, we've got the New York Giants, Eli Manning and boys, going into Philadelphia. Chris, what do you got?
Yeah, listen, I think this is a huge matchup. First of all, like you stated, we got the Dallas Cowboys playing away. They're at the top, tied for the lead in the NFC East, along with the Philadelphia Eagles. A lot of action going on there. NFC East has played probably a lot better than a lot of people would have thought up until this point. And now we have a big matchup. New York Football Giants, 3-2, coming into Philadelphia, playing at Lincoln Financial Field against your 4-1 Philadelphia Eagles. I'm not going to lie, I'm pretty excited about this game, guys. And here's why I'm excited about it.
Please tell
Here's
me.
why I'm excited
Please,
about it.
yes, absolutely.
I like watching football games when I see some points put on the board.
Right.
Both these teams have absolutely horrific defense against the passing game.
Gotta get
Both teams have actually been passing the ball quite well. And let's be honest, the defense of the Philadelphia Eagles, they let Chad Henne put up 266 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Ouch.
Yeah.
They made Kurt, I'm not your cousins, look like an all-star, 427 yards and 3 touchdowns. And Austin Davis, 375 yards and 3 touchdowns.
That's impressive.
So on paper, I'm a little concerned what 2-time Super Bowl champion Eli Manning can do against them. One thing is definitely to be looked for at this game is the fact that Rashard Jennings is out with the knee problem.
That
but they
hurts.
have a massive, strong backup rookie in Andre Williams who's coming up. Listen, that being said, to steal my own line, Dave,
And it's back.
fly, Eagles, fly on the road to Philadelphia Eagles winning big over your New York Football Giants.
Well,
Okay. Well, can I point out, though, that apparently you just cannot defend former Big Ten quarterbacks then?
True.
You
Yeah,
got Henne
it's a problem.
and Cousins.
Yeah.
Okay, apparently the Big Ten is the
They're
place
good.
to be. It is.
Yeah.
They
own
are
the
indeed
Eagles,
good.
yeah.
I'm very excited to see this game, and I honestly don't. I have to make a pick,
You
don't
have
I?
to
Bet-
make a pick.
Yeah.
Down.
because I think that is going to go neck and neck, back and forth.
If you want to call for the tie,
You can.
call
Oh,
for
good
the
Lord,
tie.
that's a-
please,
Yeah.
please, Louise.
No, I've got more.
Time, we don't look-
Okay, I have more metaphorical balls than that. I would like to not rock the boat. I say you guys are gonna pull it out.
See what I'm saying?
Because well, quite honestly, Eli Manning didn't go to a Big Ten school.
He didn't.
Yeah.
There you go.
Fair
Yeah.
enough.
That's my entire
SEC,
basis
yeah.
of prediction.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, as a huge Patriots fan, I actually loathe anything Eli. So, that being said,
It's the phrase that pays this week.
What my Philly Chris, my colleague, said earlier, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. One of these games you just love to watch. It's going to be a lot of offense, a lot of big plays. I think it comes down to special teams, penalty, and Philly wins at home.
I know better than to do this, but I'm bored with all these picks, so I'm going to go with the Giants, just to be the voice of dissension.
I'm not.
You know, I could see this game going either way. I probably would normally pick the home team, but somebody's got to go with the Giants. And you know, the trend has been the Giants going up. Philadelphia started off high, and they're kind of inching down every week to me. And their defense is just,
Abysmal?
It's abysmal. It's like we thought the Cowboys' defense was going to be going into the
You know, the
season.
strange
It's-
thing in Philadelphia is
amazing.
that there's not a lot of confidence at the moment. For a
Yeah.
4-1 team, you would think that the
Don't
city
blame
would
them.
behind your
You
football team a little bit
hate
more.
The Giants.
Yeah.
But we hate the
Philadelphia.
Giants, and what we're going to do them is not going to be nice.
I
right.
just see the 12th man situation.
Yeah.
I see you
That's how I
guys
picked Cleveland for the win.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, that should wrap it up for this week's edition of Touchdown. Thank you guys for joining us again, and we'll be back next week with some more insanely entertaining football banners. So we'll catch you then. Bye-bye.
Bye.
See you.